Hello everybody, this is part 4 of the Expat Tax series. I'm Andre Botma and today we are looking at how to break tax residency. Now, to be sure, this is very important. It's guidelines only. Please, this is a case-by-case example. Remember, if you want specific tax advice, you need to see a tax consultant or a registered tax practitioner who can deal with your case in particular. But this video is just for a guideline so that you can understand how this exactly works and maybe what SARS looks at and also what the DTA looks at. Okay, let's go. I use this guide based on the SARS interpretation note 3, issue number 2, that was issued in, I think it was the 20th of June 2018. It discusses on page 5 10 things that SARS looks at to determine whether you are ordinary resident. Now remember, this is what SARS looks at, so this is from a South African point of view. I do think this is a good line for other countries where you want to determine whether you are registered there. But remember, this is from a South African point of view. So just keep that in mind. Right on top, you can see intention. Intention is the thing that is one of the main things that's looked at to determine where are you resident. And intention, is your intention to stay in the country where you are going, or is your intention to come back to South Africa? What is your intention? The second thing is fixed residence. Do you have a primary residence in that country or in South Africa? That is one of the things. Habitual abode. Where are you regularly? Where do you live? This is the where do you live question. Employment and economic factors. This is also business factors. Family and social. Is your family with you? Has your family moved yet? Cultural and other activities, hobbies, cultural stuff. Another thing that SARS looks at. Citizenship and permanent residence. Now you can see here that it's number 7. It's quite far down the list. Number 8, frequency of visits. How often do you go? How often do you stay? Number 9, the purpose of the visits. Why do you come back to South Africa, or why are you going to that country? And 10, nationality. Now, these 10 things are general guidelines, things that I call them fingers that is pointing to the country where you are tax resident. But the big one is intention. If your intention is to always come back to South Africa because your family stay here, your home is here, you only in UK for 3 years on a very long business trip. My goodness, that's a very long business trip. And then you come back to South Africa, then you've never really broken tax residency. Just very quickly, on page 7 of the SARS interpretation note, on page 7 there's a very important little sentence that was left there for us. Don't confuse ordinary residence with citizenship, nationality, or immigration for exchange control purposes. The reason why I put emphasis on the last part is a lot of people think financial immigration is what breaks tax residency. It is not. Remember, a SARS interpretation note, it is what SARS uses often in their disputes, in court cases. One of the determining factors, one of the things that the courts even look at is the interpretation notes of SARS, and here they say, don't confuse ordinary residence with citizenship, nationality, or immigration for exchange control purposes. So I just found that was very on point and something worth mentioning. Right, part 2, double taxation agreement, aka the DTA. And we look at that to determine if a country is deeming you resident of that country. And very important, the DTA, it depends on whether South Africa and that country has a double taxation agreement with one another. And these are really the tiebreakers to determine to use the DTA to determine in which country are you tax resident. And so the first tiebreaker is, do you have a permanent home in South Africa? Do you have a permanent home, let's use the UK, do you have a permanent home in the UK? Do you have one in the UK or just one in South Africa, or do you have both? If you have either or neither, then you look at number 2. Where is your family, social and economic relations? Your vital interests. Where is it? Is it mainly in South Africa or is it mainly in the UK? If your family is in South Africa, but your social and economic relations is mainly in the UK, then it's either or both. It could be both. So if it's not one, if they can't determine your tax residency via the DTA using number 1 and not number 2, then they jump to number 3. In which country are you spending the most time? Are you more in the UK or are you more in South Africa? And there they actually use day counting. They actually count the number of days in which you spend, in where you spend your days in either country. So that is another thing that the DTA looks at specifically. Fourth, if they still can't determine, then they look at your nationality. Are you a national of South Africa? Are you a citizen of South Africa? Or are you a citizen of the UK or a national of the UK? And the last one, if your nationality is different, you don't have a permanent home, your family and social and economic relations all over the place, your habitual abode, you are spending time throughout the whole world, you're a nomad, you are jumping around like a Duracell bunny throughout the world, then the DTA will say, okay, look, let's just come to a mutual agreement of where you are tax resident. And my friends, that is how you break tax residency. You want to get the intention right. What is your intention for leaving South Africa? If your intention is to leave and not come back, then obviously you are going to do some of these things and establish it in the other country so that you are not considered tax resident in South Africa. However, if your intention is to come back to South Africa and you kept your primary residence there, your permanent home in South Africa, you are spending a lot of time still in South Africa, your family is still in South Africa, your church, your cultural activities is still in South Africa, you have not gained citizenship in that other country, all these things points towards the South African tax resident. So I hope that was helpful. Please like or subscribe. Please, in the comment section, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm Andre Botma. Cheers.